Spotlight podcast with our host, Scott Smith. Scott, what's going on? How are you?
Neil, I'm spectacular. How are you, man?
Fantastic. And I'm really excited about our guest. We were talking off there in the green room, and I was just impressed about what he has done as an entrepreneur. But go ahead and introduce him.
Yeah, thank you. We've got Chris Richards today. Chris, man, you have UX Bright, your company right now, right? It's not your first one, but it's what you're focused on now. How are you today?
I'm doing lovely today. How about yourself?
I am also lovely, as you can see. So
He
not
is
a blessing
definitely
is
he's definitely a lovely person. So let's just kind of jump in and talk to Christopher.
all right, let's go. Chris, talk a little bit about what motivated you to start UX Bright.
Yeah, so I started UX Bright in 2020, right in November, right at the heels of COVID. And it was right after I had just sold my first startup company. When COVID happened, just trying to figure out what to do with our lives, right? I found a lot of greater passion in helping other entrepreneurs and just providing servant leadership for them. So that's when I started UX Bright, and it started with the focus of um, sitting down with entrepreneurs, understanding what their problems are, and helping them solve it from a tech perspective. So that involved a lot of doing design, product management for folks, and helping them avoid common pitfalls that other entrepreneurs may experience in the tech industry. So that's where my focus ended up, and we're 4 years strong. We'll be coming up on our anniversary here in a month. So really exciting stuff.
That's amazing.
It seems really exciting, and you kind of look at it specifically enough. What makes you different from your competitors?
Absolutely. So our biggest focus is user experience, right? A lot of consulting firms are, gonna pitch out, a regular sales pitch and tell you why they're better than other competitors. My specific skill is active listening, as simple as it is. I make sure to tailor, proposals and engagements to what my clients' needs are. We operate through, transparency, being very communicative, and just bringing some of that transformative leadership into the mix of how they're running their companies, and that sets us apart. So, while other companies may outsource to a firm just purely for development, there's a lot of other, factors that go into building a tech product that maybe that firm necessarily won't have technical ownership over. So, we bring a big element of technical ownership to a lot of our clients and making sure we building it like if it was our own, right? Instead of, hey, we're just completing some project and we don't really care about the outcome. We really do care about those outcomes and craft our engagements to match that.
That's awesome. So you kind of hit on this a little bit, but talk a little bit about user experience and the role that it plays, along with some of the misconceptions that businesses, some of your clients might have about user experience, and how do you help them overcome that?
Absolutely. So there are quite a few misconceptions that I run across, especially in my day to day. But one of the top ones that I see is if I build it, they will come, right? It's this notion that if you have a great idea, you should build it and then find a market opportunity for it after. And that is completely wrong. I teach a lot of my founders to do the opposite, right? Start doing your sales and marketing and engaging with your market first before you actually really start putting investment dollars into developing. Because whatever you build could change within the next 3 to 6 months. And I've ran across a lot of situations where founders have scope creep. They change or pivot very rapidly, and then it ends up costing them thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars in development costs. So, really focus on making sure founders know that, hey, let's start off with the end goal in mind. Let's start with our target audience and let's work backwards as opposed to just starting off with the tech. I believe tech is very secondary to tech products. I think value is the first thing we should look for. And, you know, we're training, entrepreneurs. It's a slow process, but over time, I think people are starting to understand. The other big misconception that I get is that business owners or founders can be their own subject matter experts. Sometimes our own personal bias gets in the way, especially for whatever we're building. And when I was building my first company, and even now, I make sure it's important to include, customer feedback loops into, whatever offerings I'm providing, because yeah, I might have a personal opinion about something. I think this might work well one way, but if the market is telling me this is how it should be a different way, I should listen to, the greater empirical evidence as opposed to, with my own anecdotal. And so I find a lot of founders that they start off, they're creating a product for themselves, and that ultimately kind of puts them into a rut when they realize that the market itself is not aligning to their own personal anecdotal experience. And then lastly, just the last misconception is that UX UI is hard or it's not a focus point necessary for business. I'd argue that this is probably the most important thing that a company can get right. Amazon would have never been the billion-dollar company that it is today if it didn't focus on user experience. And that, if you read some of Amazon, Jeff Bezos' books, he talks about that very deeply and intimately of how he started Amazon. And I firmly believe that across the board that it doesn't matter if you're a tech business, personal finance, whatever industry you're in, your customer experience is everything, right? People are what
Totally.
make the world go round. So that those are the top misconceptions and how that plays a role.
I like to jump on the whole one about, you're right, marketing and selling your product to the possible consumers before building it. I think that a lot of times people don't test what their service, their product is to the market. They
Hmm.
don't see if there is a need. One of my mentors talked about, is it the cure for cancer? Are
Yeah.
you doing something that's making them excited? And it's not really the cure for cancer, but ultimately, your product or service has to be something that there is a market for. They truly want this and they want to buy it. If
Right.
that's not the case, and you don't have something that's like, wow, then go back to the drawing board, whatever you're doing, because you're not going to, you cannot scale this. It'll go to a certain amount of time, and then it's going to hit a wall and smash, and you're going to start all over again with something
Yep.
else. And if your product sucks, your service sucks, I'm sorry to tell you this, it will always. So, I mean, the bottom line is, do you have something that, that offer or that thing is going to be like life changing? If not, go back to the drawing board, right?
Absolutely. And one little bit that I'll add on there is features is not value. Value is value. A lot of times people think that, maybe if I add this new service or I add this new arm to my business, that this will automatically, solve my financial issues. But no, it really just pay if you have one competency, focus on providing the most value for that one competency. And once you've mastered it, you can move on to the next one. At least that's all I've always seen it. So
And so,
absolutely.
and some people scale too quickly, and they
Right.
scale too fast and different things like that. Go ahead, Scott.
No, so you just hit it on the head, Chris, and you're giving so much value just in this conversation that we're having right now, not even just about your organization, but that is business 101. Focus on what you're good at and let that value drive what you're offering to your clients, right?
Hmm.
So I want to segue a little bit. I learned about this recently in a client meeting that I had for one of my clients with one of our partners. And the guy was talking about minimum lovable products. Talk about minimum lovable products and how that drives your approach to development.
Yeah. So this is a term that it came fast after, the term minimum viable product.
Yeah, I had
As
never heard of it before. So I was,
yeah, it's relatively newer term, maybe 2, 3 years, if
yeah,
that. But that's actually a phrase that I put on my homepage. But the concept, an MVP, the regular concept is build a product as viable as possible and just create the baseline, right? Get whatever you can and deploy to market. Which for most founders, as a first step, I usually always recommend, right? Get a very limited scope, figure out what you can ship, and do it quickly.
sure.
But once you get past that, once you get past the MVP, there's so much more that goes in that's involved with, okay, you're in this market now. How do I beat out potential competitors? How do I stand out from a unique perspective? And how do we build effective customer feedback loops that create engagement and create almost love, or this sense of, I really enjoy this product, gives me joy, and it's simply because it's providing a pain point, and providing value, so vividly that it helps them. So the minimum lovable product is more or less a combination of, um, feedback loop cycles, making sure that engagement and retention is there, right? Some people build SaaS products, they may have a few users, but are they reoccurring users? Are they coming back to the platform, right? So, all the different, analytics and things that go around, making it a long lasting MVP, right? There's tons of MVPs that people release day to day, but how do you make it lasting? That's the whole point of a minimal lovable product.
And does that have to do a lot with creating a great business plan, uh
Absolutely.
doing a risk assessment, to basically really look at a SWOT analysis to look at, really, is this going to be a success? Who's going to be my competitors, especially in a SaaS product? Because SaaS products can be copied in seconds. There's
Right.
no, and if you don't have the customer base, forget about it. Do you have the connections? Do you have the resources? Because SaaS products, that's the big ultimate goal. You're right. So if you're saying I'm going to start this SaaS product and I have a great marketplace of people interested in it, then I have a much better success when I build it versus I am starting with scratch with no customers or no resources.
Absolutely. And real, you just hit it on the head. It's something really key. The business side of a minimal lovable product is super key too. You have to have a effective go-to-market strategy, for how you're going to have client acquisition, right? And you know, some of the some of the greatest, platforms that started, like Airbnb, for example, they had a great go-to-market strategy. When they first started their idea, no one wanted to rent out their apartments, but they focused on a very small niche, a small location. I think it was out in California. Tried that test trial period out, and they continued to build and cater to that user base until they got to the point where, okay, this is kind of ready for a little bit more mass consumption, right? So, just using more feedback loops and then continue iterating that within your business venture, ecosystem. That's big.
All right. Well, we're having such a great conversation, Scott. Any other questions? I could talk to Christopher a long time because this is just a definite place for entrepreneurs that are looking at creating something, that product that's going to change, be a game changer.
Yeah, it really is. And it's such a great conversation. And Chris, we're just about out of time. So I want to ask you this last question. And I've got 20 other questions that I really want to ask you and just get more in depth. So we're going to have to follow up, but looking ahead, talk about how you see the role of UX, UI evolving over the next coming years, 5 years, especially as businesses increasingly are adopting AI.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Yeah. So this is actually something that I've been tackling myself mentally, about sort of what does the future of work look like, and how does that affect user experiences and how humans interact with AI, right? So I think the future of user experiences is a positive one, in the sense that, as these AI technologies come on and introduce more complexity, the need for simplification or streamlined processes and experiences will be even larger, right? And that plays into how we bring AI into the mainstream just in general. If we are, the easier we make it for developers to spin up their own AI bots or, their own instances of technology, these user experiences, um, they'll definitely become more they definitely become more simplified, and then it just become a natural progression for how, tech will progress. But the other side of this, though, aside from AI, though, is UX is going to branch into some other mediums. So AR and VR, augmented reality, virtual reality, are going to start to be really prevalent technologies. And how we interact with computers and how we interact with each other are also going to be major key social and cultural factors for where this will end up going. Whether it's, the Google glasses as our new interactions for user experiences, or I don't know, floating hologram phones. Maybe that's the future, right? So there's a
It's
lot.
exciting.
I could talk all day on that one.
No, 100%. Where is the best place people can find information on you, Christopher, and learn more about you?
Absolutely. So you can go to uxbright.com, and that is uxbrite.com. It'll have all my social links on there, information about the business, and also have a little about me if you want to learn a little bit more about, my story. And if it's all right with you, I also do a business leader group at a meetup on meetup.com. We host events every month. And we're doing a in-person, our first in-person event today. So we got about 30 or so people that are coming out to that. So
Nice.
uh,
Excellent.
lot more good stuff in the future that I'm planning to do. And yeah, love to see everyone get connected however I can help, or just want to
Excellent.
say hi and chat.
All right. We appreciate it. Thanks, Christopher.
Thank
You're
you.
listening and watching the special simulcast of the Neil Haley Show.